place and get them to...
Hello, good evening. Welcome to Kiki's Chat Show. It is 9 o'clock. Today is the 12th of April. April, for some people, is a new year. It means spring. It means new beginnings, new flowers, new life, new thoughts. It's so different where nobody makes an noise about April because they've done it all in January. But for some of us, April is the beginning of the year, and April is when things start and life begins. We've had Easter, and that is also an awakening because it can be an epiphany for some. Well, my guest today is Gina. Gina is a natural, holistic, mystic coach. And she works with powerful women, helping them to turn the lead of their life into gold. Now, we're going to talk, I don't know, is it the lead or the lead?
The lead.
The lead. So lead turns into gold.
Yes.
Gina's aim is to be a worldwide beacon, helping women to heal, because she believes that if all women were healed, the world would be healed. Welcome to Kiki's Chat Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So your name is just Gina, like Madonna. There's no surname.
Yeah, just Gina, like Madonna, for sure.
All right.
Everyone calls me Gina. Some people call me Jeannie. I don't mind. It's Jeannie became an Irish friend of mine gave me that name as a little bit of a euphemism. She didn't mean to, actually. She thought my name was Jeannie, and she called me that for a long time. And then one day I signed a card to her with my name Gina, and she was so surprised. She thought my name was Jeannie, and I thought she was just doing it as a fun friend thing, and it just stuck.
I dream of Jeannie. That's what I remember. Remember
exactly.
that
Magical.
show.
I must have known I was going to become mystic.
I dream of Jeannie. So can you kind of do the nose thing and then magic happens?
No, but I can make magic happen. I don't need the nose thing though. I just create magic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad you're on my show. There are many questions that I have for you. But first of all, is it possible to kind of give us how you got to this point? What happened? Why have you suddenly become?
Yeah.
Why are you called a holistic mystic? Holistic mystic.
Yeah. So a few years ago, interestingly enough, I was going out a lot, and I met a few women, and I met several women who I felt were quite powerful, but kind of acting powerless. And I don't know, it just triggered something in my mind. I was like, women have so much power, but we don't seem to act as capable sometimes. And it just a little seed of thought planted in my mind, and I just started talking to women, saying, you've got a goddess within you. Everyone's got a goddess within them. And some of my friends started a bit crackers, like, what are you talking about? What do you mean everyone's a goddess and this, that, and the other? And I was like, well, it's my belief that every woman has a goddess within her, and all she needs is a little spark to make her shine. And at the time, I was still battling with some, things for myself, and I didn't always feel like the goddess, but something all through my life, I've always thought I was destined to do more. And then I went to a amazing seminar, and I started to learn about alchemy, and I started to learn about transmutation of energy and how you can create anything you want for yourself if you understand the sort of laws, the magic that goes on all around us, and the power we actually have. And it just grew from there. And then I decided I wanted to do a workshop, and I went to as I was planning the workshop, I was going to do it for a few hours, and then it was going to be a day. And I was like, there's too much stuff here. So I just took some women away with me to a retreat. We went away to the Cotswolds, and I spent the day working on workshops, talking to them about dealing with today's circle, dealing with conflict of integrity, dealing with taking responsibility for their lives, and how if they want things to be better in their lives, they need to take responsibility. And it just grew from there, really. And then I created my company called The Goddess Within, carried on doing workshops, then I started doing speaking at different events and encouraging women to step into their power. And it's evolved from there, really. And then I was interviewed a few months back, and the interviewer, I think this was last year or early this year, and the interviewer said to me, labeled me as the natural holistic mystic, and I realized that that's the name, that's what I was, because even though I'm an intuitive life coach, that name is never really, it is what I do, but it's never really hit as powerfully as being a natural holistic mystic. Now, the natural holistic mystic it's a trilogy, really, because I use nature quite a lot. I go out in nature a lot. I spend a lot of time in nature. I believe that the world is magic all around us, and that if you go out in nature when you're having a really hard time, you can get answers, because just being connected to the sky, connected to the ground, connected to trees, you actually get a lot of feedback. Holistic is because I look at the whole of life. I don't just look at one aspect. I won't just say, oh, it's just because of your relationship, or, like I look at everything. My life has been a roller coaster of different events, and it's been my whole life. It's been being a mother, it's been being a daughter, it's been being a sister, it's been being a friend. So I look at life from a very holistic point of view, and I encourage women to take responsibility for their lives in all aspects, because it's not always just one corner. Someone might come to you, for example, with saying that they've got money issues, but when you dig deeper, you find the wound goes further back. It's not about money issues, it's about not feeling worthy, not being able to receive, and then it goes into other parts of their life. It's not that they can't get money, they can't get love, they can't get good things for themselves. They don't, you see, so it's always quite a holistic view that I take. And mystic, because it's magic to some people, but it's actually a law of nature, It's magic because I go out all day. My friend put a post up today about magic. Are you there?
I am there. You are on, so please just carry on.
So I just wondered if it was like, yeah. So a friend of mine put something out saying that you should always look for magic. So I always look for magic. Every day I do my meditations, and I ask for signs that, I'm in a two-way communication, so that I can see what's coming up for me, and I always get a sign from someone. I always get a sign from something. If I'm looking for something, I find it, My auntie used to always say to me when I was younger, what are you going out there for? You're going to find it. And she's right. I find a lot of things. So, wow. Yeah, that's how I've come to be where I am. And I, the women I work with, they're all very powerful. I used to say that I empower women, but I realized that that's almost taking the power away from women, because I think women are powerful. So I'm not empowering them. They're already powerful. I'm just helping them to turn the lead of their life, the things that have gone wrong for them in their lives, using that negative situation and spinning it so that you can have a much better situation. The gold.
It's very interesting what we're talking about, women's power and the power not, they are powerful and yet powerless, as you said. When you said it the first time, it was a little bit like, However, listening to you coming to this point, I realize what you're saying, that yes, women have power, but maybe they don't use it enough, or they don't use it in the way that would keep them strong and going, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Which brings me to a thought. You see, right now there is this movement about men becoming women, you know, the trans movement. And then they want to stop calling women women. They want to call them cis or something else. I don't know what they want to call them, because I'm trying not to pay attention to that part of the argument. Because for me, I can take everything and I am open to everything, but I am a woman and I don't want anyone to tell me otherwise. Now, because of that, how then do you not think that this power thing that you're trying to help women to identify their power, basically, is being taken from them from elsewhere? That whilst you're, you know, it's like one hand is doing this and the other one's pulling back. How do we deal with this?
You know what I find? I agree with you in a lot of ways there. I'm a woman. I'm going to call myself a woman. I'm not going to. Why should I stop calling myself a woman? Like we've already, you know, the misogyny in the world has already taken so much from women in terms of the, you know, we've been living in a patriarchal society for so long. And now women, the tide is changing and the feminine energy is coming in and we're starting to get somewhere. We're now being told that we can't call ourselves women. And I don't really agree with that, if I'm honest. I just think that I get the struggle that some people have gone through and, you know, the mental health issues that have come along with it. But it's okay. You can call yourself, you know, they can find whatever name. It's fine. I don't really, that stuff doesn't bother me, but I don't agree with taking the name woman away from us. I don't. And I think that there's some level of misogyny in being told that we can't call ourselves women. You know, it's like, to me, it's like, if you're a man who's trans and you're changing and you're going through a lot and all that's happened and you want to call yourself a woman and you've gone through the change and you're a woman and all of that, that's fine. But then I don't get why we have to stop calling ourselves a woman. I don't understand that. It's right. It's my right. Do you get what I mean? That's who I am. I'm not going to start saying I'm something else when I'm not.
Well, I think that women are not speaking up and they're not arguing enough. And so these people who are fighting to become what we are now trying to push us down to be what we are fighting for. We've fought for years. We've fought to be addressed. We've fought for our issues to be looked at. We've fought, you know, the Western world is a misogynistic world, and it manages to, even in areas where women did have they had equal power to men, and, you know, historically, and they were doing well. They're being taught through Christianity and other religions and all of this coming from the Western world that we know women must sit down, women must know their place, and women this and women that and woman that. And if a man behaves badly, it's the woman's fault. And if a man does this, it's a woman's fault. Women, women, women. And now we have men who are trying to be women and yet wanting to actually disturb the original woman's position. Now that for me, you know, in your holistic and mystic world, how do you help people? If I come to you and I'm telling you that I work in an area where everything is changing and I'm very unhappy and I'm not even being looked at, and we've got some trans men who are trans people who have now become women and they're getting the women's jobs and they are more being given the chance to talk about gender more than me, the woman. Nobody's asking me, etc. Now, bearing in mind that I'm also Black and, we're the most disenfranchised people in the Western world.
Yeah.
How do we address that? How would you help me? My mental, my psyche, how do we do that?
I mean, we're working against a massive tide at the moment. So yeah, it's going to be quite challenging. I think, yeah, as a Black woman in particular, we're already on the back foot. We've already been marginalized. We haven't got just sexism. We haven't got just racism. We've got misogyny. We've got the whole lot, and I know that I think recently Tampax have got a trans female as
they used a woman. As
their cover. And I when I read that, I was a bit confused, because I was like, isn't that about menstruation? I mean, at a basic level, that's about periods, right? So why don't we have a female? Why do you have to do that? I don't think it would be unreasonable to do that. I think that as women, we need to speak up a bit more for ourselves.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that as I don't know that I haven't had a situation where someone's come to me and said to me that particular situation you've put to me has
it's going to come. I'm telling you, it's going to come.
And I, for example, I run women's circles, and I am quite specific that it's for women that are not. I don't have trans in my circles, because I actually think the issues that trans women have are very unique to them, and I can't address them, because I think that that's something for that community to deal with. It's not for me. So I work with supporting women to have their own voice. I've always said that we should always speak our truth. I think a lot of women don't speak their truth because they think that, well, we've been raised to be good girls, seen and not heard, and do as you're told. A good woman is this, a good woman is that. Someone put up, I saw a post the other day saying something how a good woman won't leave, she'll stay no matter what, and all this sort. And I was like, what? No, what you're encouraging is for women to stay in something because they're trying to be a good woman. But in a relationship, both of you should be good. I also saw a post the other today about the guy saying it was funny. It was a TikTok, and they said something about women paying 50-50, and this woman was saying, well, if I'm paying 50-50 of all the bills, but I'm doing all the cooking and all the cleaning and all this lot, it's not really 50-50, is it?
No.
So it should, and the guy's like, well, you should still take care of me because that's your role and all this lot. We deal with all of this all the time from men, all the time. And now we're having to fight for our right to say that we're female. I am not, I don't understand where this agenda's coming from. I don't get it. And the problem that we have is that people that who are pioneering it and pushing it are not necessarily the people that have gone through, because for someone to go through that change, it's a massive thing. It's a huge thing. The operation, everything, it's huge. I don't underestimate that. So that isn't.
I don't think.
But a lot of trans people haven't gone through all of that. They're still dressing and not gone through all of that. And I guess I'm just trying to work out things, bits and pieces for myself at the moment. Yeah. So I don't know whether, as with anything, I don't know who or what to understand in that world anymore. I used to think I knew, but now I just know the portion I know is for myself.
Yeah, the question really is not for you to help a trans person. It's for you how you would help a woman, a real woman, who is powerless against the trans movement, or in a situation where the trans people are there and therefore they are disturbing her womanhood, or they're challenging it, or they're, that sort of thing. But let's move on. Because you're a mystic, one of the things, and also because you are holistic, we've entered into the spring equinox. This is the time, isn't it? Do you want to talk about the meaning of equinox, spring equinox?
So spring equinox is the beginning of spring. The equinox itself is the beginning of the spring, and it's the beginning of the new year. It's new beginnings. It's a fresh start. It's a time of the year when you need to reflect. You need to look at what's going on in your life, let go of what's behind you, put it behind you, or create something new. Spring is a time, of birth and massive manifestation. Like, if you focus really clearly, things like clearing out your space. There's a reason why they call it spring clean. It's a time when the sun comes out. Everybody starts spring cleaning because you can see all the dust that it's been gathering over the winter months where you've not maybe been as thorough because it's been cold and dark. But now the days are longer. So cleaning your space is really important. Having a good dive in and clearing out clutter, chucking out old things. If you haven't worn it for 6 months, you're not going to wear it. If you haven't worn it for a year or 2 years, you're really not going to wear it. So just chuck it out. And I know sometimes people do that, and then as soon as they've thrown it out, they look for that top. But that's one thing. You can always get a new thing. And I've always got this mindset that once you clear the space, you make space for something new anyway. So it doesn't matter. So that's one of the main things. It's also a good time to do a detox in your body, which can include fasting. It's not a surprise that a lot of the religions all have some kind of fasting period around this time. So that would tell me that at some point they were all following the spring equinox. I'm sure if you go far back in a lot of religions, you'll see that most people were following nature. And so now it's kind of gone into, when you look at a lot of religious doctrine, it's if you go far back enough, you can see where it's been mixed and blended with a lot of natural practices that people did. So that's why the spring equinox is really important for cleansing your system. It's a good time to fast. Some people fast like they do in Ramadan from morning till dusk. Some people just do it for a few hours. It's really important to fast anyway, intermittently, because your gut needs a break from digesting. So it can work much more efficiently if your stomach is empty. So I think it takes about 5 hours or something like that. You can, if you left it for a few hours, for your stomach to be completely empty, then your stomach has a little cleaning facility for itself, but it can't clean itself unless it's empty. So once you do a detox, I actually did one this bank holiday, and yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, so you know, once you do that, you have you'll feel better, you get more energy, you get rid of any parasites in your gut. What else? I do a new moon. I always do a new moon celebration. I always at the new moon use the energy, because I feel like there's a different kind of energy when there's a full moon, as if like something enhances everything. Like this, well, the moon brings in the sea and takes out the sea, so there must be some power in it. And it's just a good time to just look at everything afresh and start from here. December, January is actually a time for hibernation and coming into oneself and really reviewing things. It's a bit like our period cycle. When you have your bleed, that's the time when you're meant to hibernate, come into yourself, do more creative thinking, write, you know, just go inside, be a bit more quiet. And then the spring comes and everything comes alive. You see the light, as you said earlier, the flowers bloom, the birds are born, the lambs are born, and all these things. Everything comes into life. So this is when you're supposed to come into life. And that's the time when you're supposed to use it, that energy, because you come with all this new energy. So this is why it's a really good time to get creative and go for all the things that you have been putting off. all the courses you want to start, the job, the new business you want to start really thinking about that now, because this is where the energy is. So if you have an idea to create a new business, you want to work from home or you want to change jobs, this is a time to start looking at what kind of jobs you'd like to do. Start planning your exit strategy if you've got a job that you don't really like, because a lot of people stay in things and they don't like it. Like, just do something different. I think I started off years ago working in retail management. I went into social work. I've done events management, and now, I still do events, but I like to do, now I'm working on this. My thing now is to really work with women, to help women to heal from trauma. I've had a lot of trauma in my life, and lots of people have. It's not just me, but using alchemy has really helps me hugely. So I use it to help my children. I use it to help my friends. Why not help perfect strangers?
So do you want to tell us just a little bit about alchemy? What is alchemy? Because you've mentioned it twice so far.
Yes. So alchemy is a very old-fashioned term, and it's actually the practice of spinning. There's actually a practice of turning lead into gold.
Okay.
Right. So I use that as a kind of analogy when I talk to people about their life. It's like we all have lead in our life. That's our shadow. That's the darkness. That's the stuff, the painful things in our life. You can either sit and moan and moan and moan and moan and moan about your life and things you don't like. Yeah. Or you can say, okay, this has happened to me. What can I learn from it? How did I maybe bring some of it in for myself? How can I take responsibility? Because if you don't take responsibility for your life, then that means someone else outside of you is in charge. So if you're blaming other people all the time, that means you never have control over your life.
Okay, so when people say that, I find it very interesting, because I'll tell you, let me explain to you why I say this. When someone says, take control of your life, if you are in a quagmire already, and it is that at that point that you're complaining, it means in a quagmire, in a situation you cannot deal with, and you are down in the dumps, and it's a quagmire. And when you are in a quagmire like that, it means you slowly found yourself in that situation. And you see, in life, we're both, of African descent. We have a different way of dealing with things because we are community led. And therefore, if I was feeling sad, or if you noticed that I was feeling sad, you would say, what's the matter? And I may tell you and say, have you thought about, or somebody can help you. But in this present life that we're leading now, in this present reality of our life, I can be in the situation of negativity and sadness and complain, and yet have no idea how to get out of it, because that is my life. Somebody said to me the other day that, and this is a 70-year-old woman, 70 years old, and I said to her, I really admire you, because you still put makeup on, you still have time to do all these things, and you look so beautiful. Yeah. And she said to me, I wasn't like that before. I only became that after my husband died, my children grew up, and I suddenly looked at myself and had time to be who I want to be. And there are times when she wishes she had been like this, but she couldn't have, because her day-to-day life didn't allow her to think outside the box. So people like you should really be helping, regardless of women's complaints, etc. I think what women need, or what I feel that women need, and I don't have the whole answer, but from listening to many women, people come on this show, they've been coming on since the year 2000, we're in 2023, is somebody to speak the truth, somebody to say, oh, have you thought of this? Or do you want to try this? Because until the person complains, how do you know what their problem is?
Well, no, I'm not. This is the thing. It's not that you can't complain. What I'm saying is what I've done. So what I do with people, as you say, is I listen to what they're saying. I tune into what their issue is, and often you can understand it when you work with someone and you do some, you do some coaching processes. You can pick up the underlying issue. Now, women notoriously are terrible at boundaries. There's the self-care we don't do. We look out for everyone else first before ourselves.
Yes.
We don't have proper boundaries because we're trained from very young. Do as you're told. A good girl does this, and especially when you come from like African heritage, because we've got matriarchs who have led the family. And if you're, you're just expected to do certain things. But that's why we have to start changing the narrative. So when I work with a woman, as you say, who is, feeling really crap and having a bad time, I'm not going to say to her, oh, get over yourself, you need to do better. I'm going to listen to her because she needs to speak her truth. I'll encourage her to really speak her truth and go to the heart of what's going on for her. And then as you dig deeper, when I say about taking responsibility, I'm not just saying, be tough, get over it, you'll be fine. When you take responsibility, taking responsibility is doing something like self-care, learning what have you got boundaries? I spoke to a woman once before, and she said to me, I don't have any boundaries. I was like, she said, no, I don't have any boundaries. I said, have you ever had to do something you didn't really want to do it, but then you did it? She's like, yeah. I said, well, you went against your boundaries, but you just ignored them. And that's what we do. We do it all the time. I've learned the hard way. I used to be the very person that I'm talking about. That's why I've come through this. The person who didn't really speak up, the person who just went along with things, the person who thought I should because it's the right thing to do and all this lot. But now I don't do that so much. And sometimes people will say, I remember a friend used to say to me, oh, that's a bit harsh. And I'd be like, well, actually, it's better for me to feel sound in my head, because if I'm okay, then everybody else is okay. But if I'm making sure that everyone else is all right, how do I take care of myself until I burn out? And that's I've burnt out before. I've burnt out because I'm just looking at everybody else. So I think it's really important. When I say take responsibility, I don't mean it in the sense of take the blame, because that's another thing we do. We take the blame for everything. Everything that goes wrong is somehow our fault, If you've got children that are misbehaving, it's got to be the mother's fault. It can't be anybody else's fault. It's because she's not caring for them properly. She's not doing this and the other properly. Even if they're adults, it's still your fault. I don't understand how it's still your fault, because when do they get to take responsibility for their behavior? So all I do is try to help women to speak their truth. And the main thing for me is self-love, self-care. So I try and encourage them to do things initially, small little things for themselves, because when they start to feel better, then they start to kind of sit a bit stronger and a bit higher. Then they might start to be able to say to someone, actually, no, I don't want to do that. I haven't got time this weekend. My plan was to do this for myself. So that's what I try to encourage. And that's how I build them to taking more and more responsibility until they get stronger. Slow. It's a gradual process, because I wasn't born like this today. The Gina 20, 30 years ago was not this person at all.
I think you're a very strong woman. And when I say strong, not in the automaton strong, but determined in your mind. And you have climbed out of, my special word, quagmire. You have actually
I like that, I'm going to start using that. I like that. It reminds me of a character, but I like that word. I might have to take that on. Start using it a bit more. Quagmire. I love that.
One of the things which confused me is that one thing I say, and I say that all the time, and I will say it here as well. I mean, I've said it on air so many times, is that the same women that you want to help will actually disappoint you at certain points. Women are lethal sometimes, and when you least expect, they will either betray you or do something to you when you are helping.
Yeah.
And it's really painful. But I think that it's always because they are from a disadvantage, or they are, they are in a corner, or they are in a situation where they feel that they have to survive. And therefore, even though you're helping them, at some point, they will do something to
sabotage.
Yes, the whole thing. So I help women remotely. I like to be, I'm there for you. I will help you, but remotely. I find ways to, and that's sad, but that's how it is. I think.
Sorry.
No, you were saying.
I don't take responsibility for their outcomes. I let them take responsibility for their outcomes, because I say, well, you need to make a choice. What do you want from your life? Like, how's it going for you? Those decisions that you've been making till now, how's that working out for you? Is it working out great? Then carry on. If you're happy, carry on. But if you want to effect some change in your life, you're going to have to do some changing. The world doesn't change, you change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I put it back to them. I don't work. If I'm working with you if you come to work with me, you should expect some straight talking. I'm not there to monitor.
I'm actually curious about your Sacred Women's Circle. What is that?
It is a labor of love. I read a book called Sacred Woman by Queen Afua, and she talks about these gateways, and it's basically a way of looking at your life holistically. We meet every week, and each week we pick a new topic to discuss. We spend a bit of time breaking down the topic, and then a couple of women may come with some of their issues, and we work through that. And then it's a space where we can gather each week. And actually, it's interesting you were talking about the situation earlier on with trans. I'm noticing a lot of women's circles are coming up. I think that women are trying to find. I feel like, I said this to my friend the other day, and she was laughing. I said, it feels like the witch hunt of like all those centuries ago, where women are being hunted and being pushed out. So we're finding little covens to meet in and be free. So it feels like, one of those things. So my Sacred Women's Circle, it's a place for women to come and get some support, get connection with other women in a non-judgmental place, and to be heard, and to get their truth spoken, and to just be seen and supported. And I use the circles as well. I've created a little group, Sacred Women's Circle group, and I this summer I'm doing a summer solstice celebration, which will be celebrating 6 months of the circle. And I just my aim is to help with little bits of healing in a group setting. But obviously, if people want to go and expand and go deeper onto something and make effects like some big changes, then they'd have to work with me one-to-one, because it's a 2.5 hour group, but it flies by. By the time we've finished going through things. Today we talked about conflict.
You talked about conflict.
Dealing with bullies and conflict, and how to deal with issues that come up for us when we're being bullied in the workplace or in ex-partners and things like that. So I was able to help both of them. Actually, there were 2 women that came in today to ask about different issues, and I was able to help through those things.
Wow, I like your idea. I think we need a lot of people like you, because we are becoming solitary. Women are, especially women in controlled marriages, women where men, they're married, and therefore, so a woman doesn't do this, and a woman doesn't have a friend, and et cetera, et cetera. So, okay, so in the Sacred Women's Circle, do you also do the mystic part of your?
Yeah, it's the whole thing. Everything I'm talking about here, I use it in the whole. It's a whole package. It's a trilogy. It's just happened that way, but that's how life is. I feel like that's the whole aspect of looking out for ourselves. You
Okay.
have to use nature. So I encourage people to get out in nature as often as they can. I encourage people to look at their life a bit more holistically. Just because if you've got a problem and you keep your eyes blinkered, you can't see how you're repeating patterns in different areas. So that's why I get people to look at that. And the magic is really, it comes from within. Like, you know, if you have, like, I have a daily practice of gratitude every day without fail. I find things to be grateful for. Every morning I have a gratitude journal, which I write in. That changes your mind. It changes your mindset. It changes everything. That's mystic. That, like, it's magic. Our bodies are magic. I don't know if you've ever heard of Joe Dispenza. He talks about the chemicals and how we can actually change our perception and things like that. So that I talk about it. When I say mystic, it sounds like it's mysterious, but it's not really. Science.
People get concerned when you say mystic because they think suddenly you're going to talk about some evil working or some magical something. People don't realize that it is people who don't understand the situation or do not understand other people's religion or who don't understand that come and tell you that what they're doing is wrong and that you should follow their way instead of your own way. I think that's where we Africans have become damaged because
I do,
yeah, we haven't listened to ourselves. In my tribe, for example, women are still on the borders of being revered, and women listen to themselves. They listen to their bodies. They know what to, as you were saying, the fasting and all of that. It's not religious. It's something that you do to keep yourself intact.
Yes.
Especially when you are of childbearing age and you are you have periods and all the sort of things, so you're careful what you're eating at certain times, you're careful, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's Joe Dispenza. Somebody's asking who Joe Dispenza.
Joe Dispenza.
If you go on YouTube and you type in Joe Dispenza, there's a lot of his teachings and discussions and the way, it's all about the mindset. It's all about
really
our mindset.
And it's scientific. It's not anything to be worried about. I think that what we still have, but we don't listen to it. In Africa, we were the original people to understand all of that science, and we did it naturally, as you're saying, exactly as you're saying. But then obviously when we were invaded and they came with the religions and they literally made us forget everything. Now people are fighting more for religion that isn't even ours, that was put on us, and ignoring our natural rhythm and flows that we should be using and listening to. We're more frightened of ourselves and our nature than something that's actually not, that's been put upon us, if that makes sense.
Something which baffles me is all of the things that we do are the same things that they do in, say, countries like India, etc. And yet they're quite happy to say, I went to India to find myself. And when I hear an African or somebody of African descent also saying, I'm going to India to some spa, I'm thinking, you bloody fool. We have that. We've always had that. Where you come from. And you're going to India.
All I need to do is land in Africa and spend some time there. And I just literally feel charged up. Like, it's such the energy. I just get the energy. When I come back from a trip from like Africa, I feel just amazing. It's like I feel so good. Like, everything's just beautiful. Someone said to me, I was talking about the water, the English water, and saying it wasn't very good because of all the chemicals they add into it. And they were like, we've got the freshest water in the world. I said, that's a common misconception. I said, because I know that I could go in a village to a stream or a well and get some fresh, clean water that would have been much better than any tap water you get here in England. But the misconception is that because we're in Africa, you can't. I'm not saying that there aren't places with bad water, but I'm just saying that we have so much beauty. We've got so much. We've so much in Africa, so much that we just, I don't know why we're tourists to everywhere else but our own continent. And and I'm ashamed to say that even myself, I think I've only ever been to I've been to one other country in Africa, but I'll travel all different places, and it's like, why am I being a tourist in all these places when there's so many different African countries that I could go and visit? So even myself, I've checked myself with that. I think I want to do that more.
Well, I think people should try more. And, you can go anywhere in the world. The world is ours. It's just that some people have decided to put boundaries and stop people from traveling, blah, blah, blah. But the world belongs to all of us. But I'm just saying that sometimes some of the things that we started and some of the things that we were doing, it's been taken from us, and then they're doing it elsewhere, and they're telling us that what they're doing over there, so people are going to center themselves, they're going to meditate. We meditate, we steam, we do all of these things, and we do it as a matter of course. We are very attuned to nature, and there are still people there who live that life, but it's just that they're not many. And I think it's about time that we started, looking back, studying. We have to start writing things down. We have to start teaching our children, basically, that there is another life, and this life is not for us. This is a life of chemicals, of torture, of slavery, of everything that is wrong against nature. There are people who, are even afraid to stand beside a tree or something, but you need that oxygen.
My daughter taught me so much. I've learned so much from my daughter. My daughter does the circles with me sometimes. She co-hosts with me, or she just joins as a guest, maybe from home or wherever. And there's loads of things that I remember when I realized I was having a girl, and I do the same. I do try to share some stuff with my son as well. He thinks that he laughs at some of the stuff I do, but he gets it, and he gets where I'm coming from. But I always thought, there's a lot of things I wish I was told coming up. And so, things like, for example, I never, ever put chemicals in her hair. I never relaxed her hair or did anything like that. I kept it natural. And I remember her trying to ask me to get her hair in secondary school, get it relaxed. And I never did. And she ended up with this massive afro. I mean, hair washing day was like, oh, okay, let's go in.
I hated that when I was a child as well.
But she learned to look after her hair, so now she has beautiful, long, good, healthy hair. There's so many things we don't give our girls, and we need to start sharing that. And I think as we heal ourselves, we kind of heal up as well. Because my mom, there's bits of things that I do that I know me and my mom get on with certain things, like that she might not have done before. And the same thing with my daughter that she does and that teaches me. I don't look at any generation and think, oh, because I'm older than you, shut up and be quiet. I know it all. Because we don't. If the last generation wasn't smart, we wouldn't progress. So there's no point dismissing the younger generation. Let's listen, so that we can all learn together, and then we can give them our wisdom. We can learn from them as well.
Yeah, somebody's just written, Magnetic Goddess says, we are powerful. We must relearn how to allow the flow of power within and from us. We are electromagnetic, and electricity runs through us. Misdirection of power is what the issue is. I think we should take our power back gently, slowly, but with determination. And wisdom, as you say, is not the monopoly of the elders. Children are very smart. My sons say the smartest things, and this is when they were 7 and 8. They used to come up with some strange truths which used to fascinate me. We're nearly done. We have only 2 minutes to go. We talked so well, it just flowed so well that the time has flown. I want to thank all the listeners who were here, who listened all through. I want to say the people, the ones who came in bits, etc. And I want to thank you as well, because you've opened our eyes to the spring equinox, the reason why we must have a spring clean, the reason why we should become aware, give ourselves time we've even talked about, the whole misdirection of power that we have, that we're not using it well. One thing I always say to women is that there is a language and a culture, and we were wired in a different way on how we relate to people, the things that we say, etc. When you are in the Western world, we need to learn to be able to speak like them. We need to be able to communicate like them. And that's the one thing that we are not managing to do. But for me, it's not a critique. It means that there is an intent in our brain to stay, to grab, to still keep who we are. And, I want us to have it parallel. We should know who we are and be how we are, and yet learn how they are and speak to them how they speak to us.
Yes.
With the forked tongue. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Gina,
you.
Thank you.
And if anybody wants to find me, they can find me on Facebook. Gina Genie, GINAGENIE. Or
I'm going to put all the links underneath. I'm going to put your name and your line, everything. I'm going to put it in the bar. So even if you leave, you can come back, and by tomorrow I've put it in there. So if you want to find Gina, it's very good. Ladies, we need to help ourselves and each other. I say that all the time. Please let us help ourselves and each other.
You're doing an amazing thing. Thank you so much for having me on. I really, really have enjoyed
my time. Thank you for coming on. My show will not be that good if you do not come and tell me things. You got to share everything you have with me, and I will share it with all the people who want to hear it. People will watch this later. This is going to come on telly later on Sunday and Tuesday. So more people will watch it. So hopefully, and we'll keep in touch. So that
yes, definitely, Kiki. Lovely speaking to you.
So people, you stay. But people, thank you very much. The show has ended, and thank you again for joining us. And please join me next week. I will have somebody else who's even equally captivating. Thank you very much.